Alaine, Duncan, welcome back to Geological.
Thank you, Michael.
That was such a fun conversation that we had a month or
Mm-hmm.
two back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure was.
it has shifted
Mm-hmm.
how I look at things in my clinic because now there are certain people that come in and they look a certain way or they act
Uh-huh.
a certain way.
Yep.
And whereas before I would have not thought about, oh, I think there's some trauma in the background.
Right.
Now I look at them and I go, oh,
Oh
okay,
boy.
there's something here. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is,
Yeah.
but I suspect there is something here, and it's just given me like a spider sense
Uh-huh.
for things.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I think as soon as we put the the right glasses on, we can
Mm,
see things that we didn't see before. And when you're looking through this more subtle or more nuanced lens, you just start to see things that are just so very helpful to see. um, because trauma does kind of two things, or
mm,
in an acupuncturist's office, it either is invisible and we don't see it and we don't treat it, or we do attempt to treat it and we blow people out of the water. We
hmm.
overtreat it. We either undertreat it or we overtreat it. So when you develop some eyes to see what's there, you're more able to meet the person where they need to be met instead of being ineffective or being over
Yeah.
the top.
Or actually cause harm
Potentially.
potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think more the harm we might cause is that our needling becomes really uncomfortable because a person's so braced and tight they can't receive the needle without, you know, pain. Um, Mostly people will equilibrate in a day or two if we with overtreatment. I don't think we're going to hurt somebody in the long term, but we're not going to be as helpful as we could be.
Well, I know that I had a patient a little while back, and she wanted some cupping.
Uh-huh.
She th- and she gets into my office and I said, how are you? What are you here for? She goes, well, I think I'm here for cupping. And I'm like, what? You think you're here for cupping? It's like, what are you doing in my mind, right? What
what,
are you
what,
doing here?
yeah, right.
Right? She didn't even
Yeah.
know what she wanted. And
Yeah.
there was this kind of vacancy in her eyes, and there was
Uh-huh.
just this timidness about her. And this was before I had this conversation with you,
Right.
right? So when they're really there, you can kind of sense it. You may not know what you're sensing,
Uh-huh.
but it's just like,
Uh-huh.
okay, be careful, be cautious.
Right.
And I remember treating her super gently for some shoulder stuff.
Uh-huh.
And even with some very gentle needling, it just seemed like, oh, this might have been too much. And
Right.
because she had come in and she really wanted cupping,
Right.
I thought I would do some very gentle, just like super soft, a little
Oh,
gliding fire cupping.
right.
People love that, right? You put oil
I
on their back and
I know it
get
feels
some
so
nice hot
good.
cup and just zzz, right? And I put a cup on her back and she like writhed up off the table.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh man, I don't
Uh-huh.
know what I have going on here,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
I super backed off, did a little bit more
Uh-huh.
cupping, super backed off.
Uh-huh.
And she calls me the next day and says, is it possible that acupuncture could give me the flu?
Huh.
And actually, she left a message on my voice machine.
Yeah.
And by the time I got back to her, she said, yes, I've been to the doctor, and the doctor confirmed that I've got the flu. But in my mind, I'm thinking, yep, you got the flu. Something
Uh-huh.
happened.
Right.
And now you've got the flu
Right. Right.
because I did not treat you gently enough.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm remembering a patient who called me and wanted to schedule an appointment for knee pain. And he was referred by a therapist who had referred many patients to me. And so, and meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how boring is knee pain? I mean, like,
What? Look
really?
out. Yeah.
But okay, I'll take you because of, who's being referred. Well, it turned out this guy had such significant dynamics of attachment.
Mhm.
He had to bring his closest attachment source were two stuffed animals that he brought with him to treatment,
Oh,
and
wow.
and had to like have them on his chest while I treated him in order to feel safe and comfortable to be treated.
Mhm.
So you never really know what's walking in your door. You know,
No,
like
you
what's the
don't.
ticket for admission? Like a person can say I have knee pain and not have any, particular shame about it or challenge to walk in, but some other things might be harder to say out loud. That this is why I need help. You know.
I find this is true so often.
Mm-hmm.
It's the knee pain that
Mm.
brings them in, or the back pain, or
Right.
the
Allergies, whatever.
yeah, the thing that's, like, socially acceptable to
That's
go
right.
see a, air quotes here, doctor for.
That's right.
And then you start getting into some stuff, and in this whole other part can unwind if the space is safe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the foundational thing, is to create safety in
Mhm,
relationship.
mhm. Now, with the guy walking in with 2 stuffed animals, you
Mm-hmm.
would know immediately, "Whoop, okay, not your average case of knee pain."
Right.
This woman who
Right.
came in to me for cupping, I was savvy enough to go, "All right, something else is up here, and be cautious."
Right.
Those are pretty gross circumstances, and
Right.
I think pretty much any of us that's been at this for a period of time would catch that.
Right.
What about the kinds of cases where it's not so overt,
Uh-huh.
right? It's not so notable. And if we didn't know to pay attention, we could easily miss it. What
Right.
are some things to watch for that might tip us off a little bit sooner?
Right. I mean, I don't think he brought his stuffed animals out maybe for the first few sessions.
Mm.
It took questions like, what helps you cope with this?
Oh,
Who's there
okay.
for you? Um,
Mhm.
um, if you could feel just like how you'd like to feel, where would you be? What would you be doing? To sort of windows into his day-to-day life, that and a sense of safety with me and non-judgment and so forth and so on, that then he could say, well, would it be okay if I brought so and so and so and so out of my bag?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I asked a fellow, a veteran once, what helped him cope when he was in Iraq. He had a pet cockroach.
W-
He had a
Wow.
pet cockroach that lived in the crack of the bricks, and he would come back home to his cockroach and say hello. He had somebody to something to
Mm.
say hello to,
Mhm.
and that's what kept him going while he was there. So it's a fabulous question. What helps you cope, and
Yeah.
who's there for you? Um,
Mhm.
are fabulous ways of finding out what is the capacity for relationship and connection, and what's the community of support this person is living in. And we're tribal animals, so we need to have a tribe around us. And who's their tribe, and
Yeah.
what's their relationship to the tribe, and how do they fit in with the tribe, and what do they give and what do they receive, and
I
all
remember
those.
this from our previous conversation has really stuck with me
Hmm.
about the importance of the social connection. What
That's right.
kind it is it supportive, or
Yeah.
what kind is it not supportive?
Yeah.
And just how critical that context around us
Hmm.
allows something to come out or to go further in.
That's right. Exactly right. Does it come out or does it go further in? And
Mhm.
that's really, in our terms, a statement of the strength of the Shen,
Mhm.
the strength of the heart spirit to be the heart protector, to be protecting, to close the gates and open the gates, and all those images that come from our tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I am curious about, and I'd like to get into a little bit, and this comes from a patient that I recently got, oddly enough, after our previous shortly after our previous conversation.
Uh-huh.
It was extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Synchronicity.
Yeah, this guy comes in and like one of the first things he tells me is how he really shouldn't be here. He had, as an infant, there were some serious issues. He spent a lot of time with surgeries, incubator. His esophagus didn't quite reach his stomach. They had to like reattach, right? Reattach all kinds of stuff. And it, again, because I'd been a little bit clued in from our
Mm-hmm.
previous
Mm-hmm.
conversation, to be able to recognize that, oh my goodness, from that very
Mm-hmm.
earliest moments in this
Mm-hmm.
world,
Mm-hmm.
it has been extremely
Mm-hmm.
unsafe and difficult and
That's
painful. And
that's right.
I'm looking at this guy who's now in his 30s and thinking, what kind of magic have you been able to pull out of your hat to be here?
Right. 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 Because that first imprint of I feel like I'm going to die. That was
Mm-hmm.
his first imprint. I feel like I'm going to die. And the threat, the sense of threat was coming from inside his own body.
Mm-hmm.
So his body wasn't a safe place to inhabit. That's a pretty profound imprint
Yes.
to carry. To carry. Yep.
So I remember from our conversation, from having read the book,
Uh-huh.
it just seemed like before I did any needles, the first thing I wanted to do was just kind of sit and feel what was going on.
Uh-huh.
Right. And this
Uh-huh.
guy was like open to it. So that was
Great.
cool. Right.
Great.
Sometimes people are not. They're like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
But he was good with it. And so I just slid my hand under his kidneys.
Good. Yeah.
Seemed like a good
Thank you.
place to start,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
And just kind of hung out there for a while.
Uh-huh.
Just see what I felt, you
Perfect.
know, just see,
Perfect.
does the breath come down here? Does it not come
That's right.
down here? Is
That's
the
right.
tissue tight? Is the tissue not tight?
That's right.
And it just kind of waited till it kind of softened up a little.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you start to feel a pulse of any kind in the kidney?
I cannot recall if I felt a pulse. I often will listen for a cranial rhythm on occasion. I can
Uh-huh.
feel that.
Uh-huh.
And so if I feel the tissues opening and suppling
Right.
and that there's breath and vitality coming into the tissue, I take that as a good sign. I don't
Yeah.
remember if there was a pulse, but I have felt pulses when I've
Yeah.
done that kind of work before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some ideally, when the kidney adrenal system, which I think of as one system, it's in one fascial sac, the kidney
Mm.
and the adrenal gland. That's from the Spark in the Machine.
Hmm.
It talks about that. That when it feels afraid, when the adrenal feels afraid, it lifts up and gets braced, and the whole kidney gets hard and tight because it's braced.
Hmm.
So as it gets some loving attention, some warmth, some compassion, some safety, and starts to sink down, that push against the diaphragm, like it's lifted up against the diaphragm. So
Mm.
as it softens that connection, the diaphragm will allow breath to move more fluidly. So they'll often take a deep breath, and the kidney becomes more infused with blood. So
Hmm.
you'll actually be able to feel a pulse or movement, or I'm
Hmm.
sure, or cranial rhythm,
Hmm.
in that organ as it sinks and actually falls into your hand.
Hmm.
And what you're doing is you're shifting the neurological platform, that's Stephen Porges's term, that person is working from. Because when they're in that high arousal, fight, flight, kidney braced, adrenal slammed, there's a very limited range of human behaviors that you can manifest. You have to be a little bit on the rigid side. You have to be a little bit on the black and white thinking. You have to be a little bit. Uh, you're consuming your jing, to use our
Hmm.
language. You're consuming the precious substance of the jing. Um, your morbidity and mortality is being profoundly affected. Your lifelong health is affected. It's not good.
Yeah. So you've
Yeah,
got a narrower bandwidth
a
just in
very
terms of
much narrower.
response.
That's right. That's right. That's
And
right.
it's the same time you're like sucking on your reserves
That's
because
right. All
you're
constantly.
just in overdrive.
Right.
You got one foot on the brakes and another one on the gas.
Right. What was his sort of capacity for connection with you, or his conversations about family relationships, friendships, stuff like that?
Pretty good. He was cognizant of his situation in many ways.
Uh-huh.
And especially when I spoke it out, oh my goodness, you've been living with this kind of trauma for
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
ever. He was like, yeah,
Uh-huh. He felt
yeah,
understood and seen by you.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I did very early on was say, well, this is trying to remember what he even came in with.
Right.
Um,
Knee pain.
you know, yeah. um, I am totally blanking on what he
Yeah.
came in. It might have been anxiety,
Uh-huh.
but I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but just being able to vocalize to him and
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, well, this is a part of the picture here. This is a part of
Mm-hmm.
what we will work on."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like, yeah, that made sense. He was all in
Right.
to be recognized
Right. Right.
and
Right.
quickly,
Right. Right.
right? I
The,
mean, on occasion, I think I was just lucky because I'd been talking to you,
mm-hmm.
and so he came in and I was alert to it.
Right.
I would have not
Right.
brought the trauma of his birth circumstances into it if we hadn't had that conversation. I would have
Exactly.
missed it completely.
Right. So what happened to him is that he came in, there was a basis for threat. His
Hmm.
organs weren't connected right. He was whatever all. He was
Hmm.
premature, he was C-section, he was whatever it was that was happening. He had a sense of threat. He didn't have the I'm going to get into polyvagal theory.
Yeah,
he did
that polyvagal is cool.
It's very cool. So when we're born, we only have enough of our ventral vagus, which is the part of the vagus nerve that innervates above the diaphragm. It's essentially, in our language, it's the Shen. Also involves the breath. So it's that upper chamber of the upper jiao. He didn't have. We only have enough capacity there to suckle, to make a
Mm.
connection for nursing. It will develop rapidly in the first 6 months of life and continue to develop until we're into our teens. But it will only develop if we have co-regulatory relationship with a loving caregiver.
Hmm.
And if it's been so unavailable because of this threat at birth, it's going to be even harder for him to manifest the regulation of the heart because
Mm.
instead of being able to be soothed, he had to use his dorsal vagus from the back of the brainstem in order to mitigate his cardiac arousal. So his heart sent a message to the whole kingdom of his body: life threat, life danger, send out all the fire trucks. We need them. We need all of you. I'm going to die, like that. And continues to beat rapidly and send out that message, but his body could only tolerate that message for so long because his heart could beat out of his chest. Like, you can only tolerate 180 or 200 beats per minute, even when you're a baby, for so long.
Right. Well, and
So,
not to mention he's a baby and he has zero experience in this world,
that's right. That's
right?
right.
His nervous system is blank.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly, because his nervous system knew exactly what to do. His nervous
Mm.
system called out his dorsal vagus nerve and said, slow down, heart. You can't keep this up and still live, so we're going to slow you down.
Mm.
And that was life-saving for him, but it meant that there was a dominance of his dorsal vagus nerve overpowering his ventral vagus nerve.
Hmm.
And so his heart didn't get a chance to develop its function as the supreme controller, as the regulator.
Because it's been down regulated by
It's
the
been
dorsal vagus
it's
nerve.
That's right. It's been down regulated by this really ponderous, clumsy, big big foot standing on the heart in order to save its life.
Hmm. So,
So then when you
mhm.
hold his kidney, you're reminding his nervous system that there's another way to be, that don't have to live with high arousal in the kidney adrenal system all the time. In fact, you can experience safety.
Mm-hmm.
You can operate from a different neurological platform. You can operate from a platform that includes low arousal, low dorsal vagus, that can allow the ventral vagus to cultivate and emerge.
Now, I've got a question about this. This happened for this fellow at a super tender age, right? This
Yep.
happened from birth. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying, and I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it here. So just hang with me while I
Sure.
noodle through this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can see someone having, I'm going to call it like normalish life in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then something happens, they go into this arousal, dorsal vagus comes in, they shut it down. Now they're living this sort of compromised existence in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they had something before that
That's right.
to come back to,
That's
right?
right.
So when you hold their kidneys, it's like, oh, I felt like I was 7 again or something,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right? Because maybe that was the last time they'd felt it.
Right.
For someone like this who has managed to, live this life, but has always been under the influence like this,
Uh-huh.
is it different? Or are there other things to watch out for or to be attentive to when someone from the get-go has had this kind of a regulatory influence on their heart?
You're going to be surprised as you continue to look through these glasses
Mm,
how many people in your practice have something similar to what this fellow had.
mm,
That it's the people who had early trauma in their lives that later develop the kinds of symptoms that come to acupuncture: autoimmune illness, chronic headaches, irritable bowel, um, metabolic disorder, hypertension, anxiety, cancer. Like all those things can be traced to the quality of disorganization that happens with early trauma. And the rates of those kinds of illnesses, drug addiction, obesity, the rates of people who experience early trauma are like 400, 500, 600% more with who develop those kinds of symptoms.
mm-hmm.
And it's those strange, rare, and peculiar things that people come to acupuncture for. They don't come to us for needing an appendectomy, something straightforward and let's take care of it, or a broken limb. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they come to us for healing their energy field, bringing
Well,
regulation to their energy field.
and issues that they've probably already been to conventional medicine and it either didn't
Mm-hmm.
help or it hurt.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, this rabbit hole really goes deep then. I mean, I feel super fortunate that I had this guy, super obvious
Mm-hmm.
case. What I'm hearing you say is people with autoimmune diseases, people with certain
Mm-hmm.
digestive issues,
Mm-hmm.
chronic kinds of issues. These are indicators that we might want to be attentive to very, very early trauma.
That's right. That's right. Although I'm going to throw in a wrench into the monkey works here.
A wrench
There's
into the
also
monkey works. Great.
there's also some very interesting research on what's called epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, in Israel, there's been a lot of research on children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. In the Netherlands, there was some fabulous research on what they called the Dutch famine winter, um, where um, women who were pregnant during the famine of World War II delivered babies that were smaller in size than previous generations and had higher rates of schizophrenia and obesity. And what they
Mm-hmm.
found out was that their children, so the grandchildren whose mothers did not experience famine in their pregnancy, they also had higher rates of mental illness and obesity and some of these other problems. So there are genetic changes that can happen as a result of trauma. And so it could be that your patient didn't themselves experience this level of stress, but maybe their parent or their grandparent or their great grandparent did. And it's affecting their genetic manifestation of their autonomic nervous system.
I think that's spot on because
Uh-huh.
as we're having the conversation here right now, I am recalling that his family situation was very, very difficult.
Uh-huh.
So that family situation didn't get difficult all by itself.
Right.
There's usually a lineage
Right.
that comes down
Right.
that way.
Right.
So
So then
I
there's
suspect he's dealing with both.
right. So then there's the question like does a person develop um, this kind of dysregulation because their parents were dysregulated, or did they get this kind of dysregulation because of birth trauma, or is it nature or is it nurture? You know,
Or did it come from the grandparents?
or did it come from the grandparents? Right.
Yeah.
Now, there's some fascinating research that was just published in the current issue of Science magazine on epigenetics. This scientist is studying mice because they have more rapid generational, they turn over their generations more rapidly than humans do.
Yes.
So she's gone down 6 generations and she's tormented the mice. She's thrown them in water and she's loud noises and all kinds of stuff. And their pups show autonomic nervous system dysregulation. They're wiggy. And she's done this 6 generations, and they've with lots of cross breeding and all that kind of stuff, and demonstrated that the pups inherit the dysregulation. But here's the great thing. She's also put some of these pups in the equivalent of a palace with spa services 24/7. I mean, she's like given them opportunities for healing and for safety and good food and all that. And their pups do not show the trauma.
Wow. Send the mice to the Mouse Canyon Ranch.
That's right. That's right. So what we're doing to restore regulation in our patients is, I have goosebumps,
Yeah, me
is
too.
affecting generations to come.
That really shifts the frame for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get into this more about how we can help our patients, in
Mm-hmm.
these moments,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that the work we do, which helps people now, actually can make for a different world down the way because their offspring
That's right.
will come in with a whole different, maybe not a whole different, but a different genetic endowment.
And it's even bigger than that, Michael,
It's
I
even
think.
bigger. Ah!
Because think of the person who's like got a shut down brainstem with a strong dorsal vagus control. And because that's so powerful back there, it's taken the frontal cortex hostage. They don't really have access to the thoughtful part of their brain. They're really more in that is it a rope or a snake conversation. And what happens when you help loosen up that dorsal vagus, release its grip, they get more access to their frontal cortex. What happens to them the next time they vote?
Or the next time they have a fight with their spouse.
A fight with their spouse, or even when somebody new moves into the neighborhood who doesn't look like them. Can they have a more thoughtful and curious experience of their world, or do they stay in a more in the box, rigid, I only think one way kind of status? So we're really talking about world healing for me.
So I have to tell you, I'm one of these very not woo-woo acupuncturists.
Okay.
And so I sometimes hear things like, "Oh, we're actually healing the world." I'm like, "Yeah, kumbaya, whatever." Just
No, that's why I like this polyvagal stuff,
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
science.
It's
It's not woo-woo.
no, it's not.
Although what we find is that the spiritual traditions
Mm,
are actually reflecting what we're finding out in science
yeah, this
about
is
I affect you, you affect me. We're in this together. Our energy fields influence each other.
I'm coming around.
Yeah.
I'm coming around,
You're going to
I
be
mean, I
singing
love
Kumbaya any minute.
I will be singing kumbaya. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I mean, I grew up in a Western culture,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't not consider our Western physiology and our Western science, which has some amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very reassuring to me, especially as we talk about this stuff. Like you free up the frontal cortex, by pulling the brainstem off of it, right? You get the
Uh-huh.
damn reptile out of the way.
Exactly.
And now the mammal, not just the emotional mammal, but that loving human
Right.
type mammal,
That primate kind of mammal.
that primate kind of mammal,
Uh-huh.
troublesome primates that we are, but also
Yeah,
amazing.
that's right.
Now that can come through more.
That's right.
Yeah.
Transformation is possible.
Damn, we will be singing Kumbaya before long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. So maybe acupuncture can heal the world,
Uh-huh.
along with a lot of other things.
Well, with a lot of other things. We're not the
Hmm.
only ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that dorsal vagus it's important to us. It's not a bad guy. At low tone, our dorsal vagus is what helps our spleen and stomach transform food into chi and blood.
Hmm.
It's what moves hormones around our body. It's what supports T cell production. I mean, all that kind of behind the scenes stuff is all under the regulation of low tone dorsal vagus. It only has to go into high tone when the ventral vagus can't manage the threat, can't manage the cardiac arousal when it gets too high, and the heart needs protection.
Hmm.
So, if we're injured and we fight and fight and fight to save ourselves, and we can't save ourselves, it will thankfully put us into a freeze state until some people can come along and can help us get out of the mess we're in.
Hmm.
So and in doing that, it slows our metabolism, slows our need for oxygen, for energy resources and so forth, to keep us alive a little bit longer until help can come.
Kind of a suspended animation.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's designed to, you know, come on board, shut things down, but then when the danger's over, to relax and come back into low tone and go back to digesting our gristle.
Right.
So when we hear the guts move in a treatment, we hear gurgling or burping, or I always tell people I love your farts. That's that freeze that's in the dorsal vagus innervates below the diaphragm, so it innervates the guts, and when that freeze lifts off and allows peristalsis to happen, we're home free. We've
Right.
we've we've changed something in their neurologic capacity.
Well, and it's wonderful that we've got this dorsal vagus because it does, I mean, it is our parasympathetic response. It allows
Exactly.
rest, rejuvenation,
That's right.
and digestion.
That's
It's
right.
amazing that it has this dual function that when things get in
Hmm.
overdrive, it's like, okay, we're going to put the kibosh on this
That's right.
to keep things from getting out of hand. Now, I can't remember if we had this discussion in the last time we talked. I have heard other people talk about similar things. JJ Hadlock
Hmm.
talks about this a bit with some of the Parkinson's
Oh,
stuff that she
interesting.
does. Yeah, she
Okay.
talks about people going into a freeze state because something happens and they never quite come out of it. They find ways of living within it,
That's right.
but that fundamentally will change their brain and their brain chemistry
Right.
and
Right.
how dopamine works and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And until they can come out of that, um, these people are at risk for Parkinson's.
Right.
One of the things that I remember she talked about, and I've heard other people talk about this, we might have, I can't remember. I
Uh-huh.
talk to so many people, it's like every week it's somebody new around here. I can hardly keep it
Mm,
straight anymore. But one of the things I've heard folks talk about is that one of the things that happens, like when animals come out of this,
right.
they will naturally shake.
That's right. That's right.
And sometimes humans, when something
We'll do the
freaky
same thing.
happens, we will do the same. I've had an experience where I sprained two ankles at the same time, and it kind of put me in shock. And as I was
Sure
starting to
did.
like kind of get a grip on things, I was shaking like I could not stop
Right.
shaking.
And you needed to shake. And rescue personnel would do well to simply allow people to shake instead of telling people to suppress that urge to shake, because you're throwing off that arousal that needs to get thrown off.
Hmm. So the shaking is super important.
Yep, yep, yep. Super,
What
super
else
important.
is going on here with the shaking? I mean, is this part of this polyvagal
Well,
regulation? Is
I
there
think you go
something?
into a massive, clutch
Mm,
brace when something like two sprained ankles happens,
hmm.
and then as when you like begin to realize that you survived it, you kind of it kind of does that. It kind of releases on down muscles and tendons and ligaments, and just it shimmers on its way out. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's gross.
Hmm.
The other thing I wanted to say about this freeze thing, and it comes back to the beauty of the five elements,
Mm,
because you can have a freeze in a particular tissue or particular organ. Like, it's one thing to recognize a general trauma response, like this person is disturbed, I can see it in a general way, but then how does that help us in designing a treatment
hmm.
if all we see is the general disturbance? Now, obviously, we can start with a kidney adrenal hold is a great place to start with anyone, anywhere, and see as organization starts to come on board what else we see and what else comes up in terms of fine tuning where we're going to go. But we can also develop skills to notice, well, is their freeze more in their guts or is it more in their muscles?
Hmm.
Is it more in their diaphragm, like in how they breathe, or is it showing up more in their skin?
Mm.
The skin is a fabulous boundary organ. Protects us, helps us recognize the inside world and the outside world, creates a boundary, tells us a lot about the outside world. I mean, functions the communication of the Po with the lung and the skin, tells us if it's cold or it's hot and what we need to do about it and all that. So if you have a brace freeze in your skin, you may not be able to pick up sensations from the outside world and know how to be appropriately respond to them. So, all those correspondences that we all memorized in acupuncture school or have a handy chart to review, can be really helpful for how do I understand what's going on with this person, and can I develop a diagnostic framework that's bigger than the 1,000 symptoms that they have.
Right, which is so confusing.
It's so
It
confusing
can be so
because
confusing.
they're going to have disorganization in every element and every organ.
Hmm.
So what's the uh, one pair of organs or one element that when I help restore regulation there puts everything else back in place?
Ah, yeah, that
That's
that
that's
makes
really our
sense.
question.
Yeah. Can you give us a case of someone that you've treated in the past that would illustrate how you've looked at, oh my God, it's just a whole confusion and jumble of things here, and then you like tuned into, okay, actually, it's this element in this level of tissue.
I'm thinking. It's always a hard question because you don't want to share too much personal information about someone. You don't want someone to recognize themselves,
I understand.
in a thing like this.
So you can mix it up a little bit if you need to,
Yeah, yeah,
or put a couple people together.
yeah. Um, I think that it's fairly safe to say that uniformly people will be supported by the kidney adrenal hold.
Hmm.
Not ever. In fact, I'm working with someone currently who is not comfortable with touch. I'm not able to touch him. So we're working on boundary in terms of how close or how far away I stand from him, and helping him find comfort when I'm a little bit further away, and where's the sweet spot where he starts to feel some measure of arousal, and allow him to feel a little bit of arousal and then come back to comfort. So what we're doing is we're creating that wave of arousal and comfort that's actually looks like the Daiji symbol,
Hmm.
where there's a rise and fall. We want to create that rise and fall in his nervous system and help it restore regulation to the whole Megillah. Um, and that's going pretty well. that's going pretty well. I can now do moxa on him, and I can and we can play with this, creating this wave as our primary task to create that up and down wave.
Mm-hmm.
It's one story. I may think of others as we go along.
Okay. Let me ask it another way too. I'm curious. I, sometimes people come in and they got these tendon issues. I'm thinking of a patient I have right now. She's got this tendon issue. Uh, and that makes me think of the wood element, and it makes me think, of liver, or, even perhaps gallbladder,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because those are connected. And then you mentioned skin. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of some patients I've got now that they kind of had hives come in out of the blue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering
So
how you might look at something. Well, let's take hives, for instance,
yeah, I mean, you
through
never
this
really
lens.
know if hives is a law of cure reaction to there was something that was quite, much more life-threatening that was happening at an organ level, and it's now pushed out to the skin level. Like, we could be glad that it's hives,
Mm,
and not cardiac disease,
hmm.
that is pushing out. Should be glad about that. There was something I was just thinking about. We'll have to continue. What were you saying just before?
Oh, about recognizing different issues in different organ systems, and sort of taking that as a clue. Oh, maybe I should work with this organ system to help release whatever trauma may be residing in there. One of the things that I loved about the somatic experiencing that you talked about last time, and that as we look at it through the 5 phases, is that people can be stuck in different places. Some people are stuck in the water phase, some
That's
might
right.
be stuck in the earth phase, some might be stuck in the metal phase. And if we
Right.
can see and understand where they're stuck, then we can help free that. Because as you were just talking about, we want to take that traumatic experience all the way through the cycle, and then it can be resolved.
Right.
Not just resolved, if they digest that gristle, now
Right.
they're more resilient.
That's right. Okay. So this woman comes to me. She complains of a sense of anxiety that's right in her solar plexus,
Hmm.
and she calls it her heart. And there's it gets relief by pressing on it. She presses on it, and it feels better. And I'm thinking, she's yellow. She's wants sympathy. She's singing. She's has constipation. There's an awful lot of signs that are pointing me towards the earth. So I'm working with her earth, and I'm also holding her kidney adrenal. And it takes like a few months for us to get to. Um, well, she nearly died when she was born. Her mother hemorrhaged. They thought she was going to die. Um, they saved her. They saved her mother, but it was nip and tuck.
Hmm.
So now, instead of her blaming herself or feeling like she's broken, or she can't, she's always anxious, she has a lot of anxiety, like that there's something wrong with her. Now we can name, well, it's like your patient. Now we can name, there was this imprint.
Hmm.
There was this imprint, and it caused this kind of um, high tone in her guts, in her dorsal vagus, in order to shut down her heart. So now we know that there's a dynamic here between her guts and her heart that started from day one, or from minute one. And we can do things like, I worked with her diaphragm system, her respiratory diaphragm. It's like this boundary between the guts and the heart, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of bracing in there, and it's starting to release that sense of anxiety and tension that's right here where this nerve plexus is, right at about CV15, CV14, 15. There's a major nerve plexus there that that's that's influencing everything for her. And we're also doing some things with some probiotics, and supporting her digestive health in in other ways, and trying to do this kind of circle around the wagons thing, where she gets a little bit from the west and a little bit from the east, and she gets some acupuncture, and she gets some touch, and she gets some context, and
When people start to see the bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
of what they've been through,
Mm-hmm.
does that change things for them?
It changes things a lot. It gives them an answer to a puzzle.
Mm,
And instead of feeling like there's something wrong with them or they're broken, they feel understood and heard and seen. And they know what they're working with and what they're working on. And I think it makes a world of difference to give people that kind of a context. And always to say this isn't a life sentence, this is change is possible.
mm.
It's like those mice that are living it in what did you call it? Mouse spa?
Oh,
Mouse
well, you said Mouse Spawn. I said, oh, the Mouse Canyon Ranch.
Yeah, the
Canyon
mouse
Ranch
can
for rodents.
yeah, right. The Mouse Canyon Ranch. Like we can create Mouse Canyon Ranch for them and they can actually this is transformable. It's not a life sentence. That we're hardwired as much as we're hardwired for that dorsal vagus to command the heart to stop beating in a way that's life threatening. We're equally hardwired to restore regulation after that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies are made to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes we just need some help.
Yeah. Well, this is, I mean, again, I don't want to belabor the point, but it's the beauty of the somatic experiencing that you
Yeah,
talk about
that's right.
and how we can see this through our view
Mm-hmm.
of the dynamic of the five phases.
Yeah, I mean, I think that somatic experiencing is, it's the premier model for trauma resolution for, that I'm aware of in today's world. And the fact that Peter Levine could recognize these five phases of the self-protective response and that they mirror the five elements, the five phases of acupuncture and Asian medicine just makes for a fabulous opportunity for integrative work and using the wisdom and the intelligence from both these worlds of science and
Yes, both
emerge
these worlds of
some
science.
science.
I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, that just came to me. I think I'm going to use that again. I like that. Um, it's like they're worlds of science, and they're very different, but they're equally valid.
Mhm.
And when we can bring them together, 1 + 1 is going to equal more than 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of
yeah,
Zen. No, I guess Zen mathematics is 1 + 1 = 0 because they're into nothing. But we're talking
right.
about a kind of synergy
That's right.
that is 1 + 1 equals more than
The, the
three.
the world of opportunity
The
for
world of
people.
1 + 1 = the world of opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and I love that it takes us from someone being broken to simply someone being stuck.
That's right. That's right.
Gives a lot of hope.
And honoring their body's inherent wisdom and that their body knows the way out
Hmm.
of this stuckness, that we're not a magician who's going to fix them. We're just helping their body to find their way and honoring their body wisdom with confidence and respect.
Every now and then, I have this experience in clinic, and I often feel a little edgy when I say this to people because it's a little bit challenging to their kind of mental framework, I would say. But sometimes people come in, they've got something going on, and I'll sit and I'll listen, and they're going on about this problem, and I think to myself, huh, this is not what's wrong with you. This is what's right with you. That there's something happening, and I'm just not buying that it's the problem. I get it, they've got problems, and I'm not
Uh-huh.
denying that,
Uh-huh.
and I want to help as best I can.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes I hear something in what they're saying, and I won't let it go because it doesn't sound like the thing that's
Uh-huh.
broken. It sounds like something that's right. And if we can somehow unfold that rightness,
Uh-huh.
then other things will change, right? The thing that
So
they
a
think
great
is
question
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
ask in
yeah,
that
give me the
kind of a
question.
moment
Yeah.
is as you share that with me, what do you notice inside your body?
Mhm.
And maybe what they notice is either that like I asked this I asked this guy once. He was a service member who was just getting out of the army, and he was being recruited for a very high level position at the Pentagon. And what he really wanted to do was go back to Wisconsin and raise apple trees and raise his sons, you know? And he was at this very posh meal, high brass, all that kind of stuff. And I said, so as you're considering what they're offering you, and you're in this meeting, what do you notice in your body? And he said, I want to vomit. I want to vomit. I want to puke. I feel horrible. This is awful, And he went on to have this whole conversation with me about, could he write the Dalai Lama and ask for forgiveness? And I said, I think you've already got the forgiveness, but I think you sure can write him. And he ended up not taking the job and going back to Wisconsin and raising his kids and growing apples.
Wow.
Because he could get that. See, this is the other risk with this high-toned dorsal. You can lose capacity to recognize the signals from your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your gut is so frozen, you lose that capacity to, I knew it in my guts. You lose capacity to know you're trustworthy, you're not trustworthy. And so you make bad decisions about who to trust and who to not trust. You get into more trauma situations because you've trusted people who are untrustworthy. So you get wounded over and over and over again. And worse yet, you may not be able to recognize when you're hungry, when you're cold, when you're tired, when you need help for whatever reason. And so you'll make bad decisions related to your self-care. So when you don't have what Porges calls interoception, when you don't have the capacity to perceive from your guts, you can't navigate your life well. You can't navigate your life well. So when every time someone is able to recognize a message that comes from their innards, they're healing that capacity for interoception. They're allowing some movement to come into this frozen state of guts and communicate with the world.
Oh, man. We can hear the world, can't we?
We can. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you got some other kick-ass, super helpful questions like this that help people to pause and take that inward look and maybe open up some of this? You just use the word and I don't know how to pronounce it.
Interoception.
Interoception. Tell us what that means again, real quickly.
So our interoceptive capacity is our ability to know what's happening from the inside. Mm-hmm. So it's recognizing, it could be recognizing that I feel anxious, or it could be recognizing that I feel hungry. That's interoception. There's kind of a subcategory that Stephen Porges developed called neuroception. Mm-hmm. Neuroception is our capacity to feel safe.
Oh, wow. That's
to recognize that we're safe. So that kidney adrenal, its job is to recognize both when we're safe and when we're not safe. Because if you can't recognize when you're not safe, you won't make appropriate responses. Mm-hmm. And if you can't recognize that you are safe, you also won't make appropriate responses.
Yeah.
Right. But, in our language, when something overwhelming happens, like your guy at birth, mm-hmm. his chi necessarily left his body because mm-hmm. it wasn't safe for his chi to be there.
Yeah, so, and his shen.
Barely so there. We could say that his interoception left with his chi.
Okay.
So I kind of think of interoception as a lot like the Po. Mm-hmm. It's like our animal nature. It's our instinctive nature. It's that communication that's below words. That's our interoception. And whenever we invite someone to say, well, as you say that, what do you notice in your body? Well, I feel a shimmer down my legs. Let's just let you be with that shimmer. And you can ask them, does it go all the way down to your toes? Which toe? You're going to find out what meridian is carrying that shimmer. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to know what meridian you want to support, maybe.
And likewise, it would seem to me, if they come back and go, I don't know, or maybe they actually do have a sense and they go, well, actually, it's like outside my body.
Uh-huh.
Do you have people say things like that?
Well, a lot of people won't know because their interoception has been so damaged that they have no body referencing capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But they may be able to notice that the room somehow feels differently.
Mm.
I noticed that the chair is a little more comfortable, or I'm more aware of the chair that I'm sitting in, or the table. I'm more on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may be able to notice something like that. So the more we can support that, we're actually supporting their chi to return to their body. And when chi is present, healing can happen.
Yeah. And blood flows better there too.
Blood flows better there too, because chi and blood, they have that
They've
relationship.
got that relation, not to mention all the consciousness that's in the blood.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So getting people
Yeah, the
to
consciousness is in the blood. Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Because the heart communicates the arousal to the kingdom of the body via the blood pulse. So it's the blood that carries the message to every cell of the body that it needs to respond because there's a life-threatening situation. So the blood carries that anxiety, that arousal, that message, right? And then when and it's supposed to get restored in the liver at night, right? But if we're not sleeping at night because we're too anxious, insomnia being probably the primary signal of a stress response. So then the blood doesn't get to be restored. Then the anxiety just continues to live in the system. So another touch technique that can be very helpful, in addition to the kidney adrenal hold, is holding the liver blood.
Oh.
Just put your hand on the liver.
On the front or the back?
On the front. I usually do on the front, just right over the rib cage. And just inviting equanimity and peace into the liver with some loving attention in your hand. And the anxiety will come out of the blood, and the heart will be able to shine with more clarity because the blood has been
restored and cleansed. Yeah.
Restored it to regulation.
That sounds like a simple thing that any of us could recognize and do in clinic. Certainly, I think we'd have several opportunities a week.
Yeah. And actually, anybody can do it, but acupuncturists get to do it with a needle in liver 3 at the same time. You know?
Or liver 8.
Or liver 8. Or liver 8 would be great. Or even liver 14. Or 13.
Yeah.
You know? Just to direct the attention just a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I love this interoceptive idea, this way that we get connected back up with that part of us that does know.
That's right.
Because we do, even if we're confused and we're troubled, I don't think anyone has ever had a moment where they didn't listen to their gut and then later realized I should have. And was like, oh yeah, I should have listened to my gut. I mean, we all know this. We all know this is part of our endowment as human beings.
Right. And actually something like 80% of the nerves in our gut are afferent, meaning they communicate to the brain. So the brain doesn't have as much influence on the guts as the gut has influence on the brain. So when we override our guts with our brain and say, oh, I can do it anyway, or I thought that guy was a schmuck, but I decided to trust him because of X, Y, or Z, our guts are usually right. And we should trust our guts.
Are you telling me that if someone calls me shit for brains, that it's a compliment?
It could be. But you get what I'm saying, that the message, like the primary message is center. Like, is this visceral brain, this belly brain communicates 1,000 things to help us navigate our life.
Absolutely.
Who's safe, who's not safe. It produces our T cells for our immune system. It produces 80% of our neurotransmitters like serotonin to regulate our mood. Like, if our dorsal vagus has shut down capacity in our fu, all those functions for serotonin production, T cell production, all those things are going to be influenced. So it's not just that we can't eat a knockwurst without belching. It's bigger than that.
Way bigger. Yeah.
Way bigger.
Including our mood and such. I mean,
That's right.
the incredible popularity of, SSRI drugs
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
an attempt to do something about the problems between the gut and the brain communication. If
That's
that
right.
gut-brain communication was there
right.
there wouldn't be a need for those drugs
Mm-hmm.
because we've got all of that within our system. We just need to get it from one place to another and have
That's right.
clear communication.
That's right.
Would you say the Chong channel is somehow involved with all this?
I absolutely think so.
Mm.
I absolutely think so. I use it often.
Mm-hmm. In what ways do you tend to use it?
Mastering a couple points and a hand under the kidney.
Ah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I love how simple our medicine can be at times,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, profoundly transformative.
Right. And then I probably would finish off the session with a tonification of source points in their element that's their causative factor element.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. We just burned another hour.
There you go. Enjoyed myself. Yeah.
Well, I hope all you listeners enjoyed this as much as we just have.
Indeed.
And I want to remind folks that you've got a fantastic book. If you're interested in treating trauma, this is a great read. Both from the points of view of both sciences, Eastern and Western.
That's right.
It's in there. And
the Tao of trauma.
The Tao of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing some classes too as well. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm starting in October with a 5-session series in Ojai, California, and in Silver Spring, Maryland. 2 bi-coastal offerings this fall.
That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
You're hitting both ends of the country.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful.
That's
well,
right. Thank you.
Alaine, again, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for your work. And thank you for helping me to open my eyes in clinic to how trauma can possibly be part of the picture.
Yeah.
It's so helpful to be able to not have it be invisible.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you for your work as well. It's the dialogues you put on Geological are so helpful to our medicine to keep it in a thoughtful and reflective zone.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
I'm just, I just like talking to people smarter than me. That's all.
You're great.
Thanks again.
You're great. All righty. Take care. Bye.
Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Geological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Geological.